Indeed. And they only show the
All right,
telephone
everyone,
number.
we'll go ahead and get started here. And so, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I just want to welcome everyone to our past presidents roll call. This is an amazing time that we have to have all our past presidents of SoCal CCIM here on one line. And honestly, I've been thinking about this for quite some time, probably for a couple of years. And so I think definitely as we're going through this COVID stuff, I mean, it's certainly creating some new opportunities and some new things that we weren't doing before. And to a certain extent, I'm somewhat thankful that we're going through this because it's certainly opened up some new opportunities. And so, and has taught, I think, all of us a little bit more about the technology that's out there. So, okay, so just if you guys would, if you don't mind, just throw yourself on mute for the meantime, and I'm going to go ahead and go through the little opening of our typical Lunch and Learn presentation. And so we typically start off with our Lunch and Learn with the mission statement, which is the mission of CCIM is to elevate our members to the highest levels of success in the commercial real estate profession. And through the Zoom call and in different technology ways, this is an opportunity in a good way for us to all stay connected, to stay informed, for us to provide information. I'm a true believer in relationships, and the more relationships we have, the better off we're going to be. At this time, unity is required, and the more that we all unite, the better off we're going to be at the same time. And so I want to give some recognition to our board members. These are existing board members that have been inspirational in regards to helping us stay on course, providing some insight and giving some ideas on what we should be doing with our chapter, again, to be the best resource we possibly can for our members. I'd like to introduce our sponsors as well. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to bring on our sponsors to talk a little bit more as to their services, what it is that they do, because there's no way that we could do the things that we do without our sponsors. So we want to give them an opportunity to go ahead and talk. And why don't we go ahead and start off with Dino Champagne.
Hi there. God, look, all these dignitaries I'm staring at. For a while, I was wondering what's wrong with what? How come I can't see my face on there? But you know what, Gary, I heard the same thing. That when you have too many videos, it does slow down the connection. So we're all learning Zoom as we go along. Okay, so those that are on the call and all the past presidents, I'd like to say thank you for your service in the CCIM and growing the industry. So your leadership over the years, I think, how long have I been associated with CCIM? It seems like about 15 years involved either as a participant or as a sponsor. So happy to continue to be a sponsor. The only thing I would like to say at this point is, I think the last time we had a meeting on this, on a Zoominar, because that's what I call them, there were no extensions for the 1031. There are extensions now. Anybody have questions about it, you can reach back out to me. I'll refresh your memories as to what it is. We do anticipate additional guidance coming down from the Treasury, maybe some more extensions to comply with one of the other revenue notices that came out a little bit earlier. So with that being said, we definitely are in some interesting times, and we have to make it all together.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dino. And why don't we go to Earl McCoubrey?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hear you well.
Oh, real good. Earl McCoubrey, commercial real estate mortgage loan originator, affiliated with Fidelity Bancorp Funding. So I finance real estate, but in particular commercial properties. So that would include owner-occupied properties as well as investment properties such as apartment buildings and industrial buildings, warehouses, office buildings, retail properties, which are especially difficult to do right now, and others. So we're a brokerage, and so we have access to a lot of different types of funding, and that's really important today because so many lenders have pulled out of the market altogether. Others have greatly increased their requirements and their standards, and it's made it very, very tough to finance property. So being a brokerage, why we're in a better position to be able to come up with a solution for somebody. We also do quite a few bridge loans, temporary loans, interest-only loans. We do those as well. And so that's what we're looking for, is just more people who have a need to refinance or to finance the purchase of investment properties and owner-occupied properties, commercial properties. Thanks very much.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Earl. Ken, why don't we go to you, Ken?
Thanks, Gary. Hey, everybody. Thanks for jumping on here today. Appreciate it. I know it's kind of some tough times, and if you're anything like me, you're probably going a little stir crazy. But as Dino mentioned, on the 1031 side, we did get that extension through July. So for us, it's been good for our clients that are looking for, 1031 exchange replacement property solutions that are turnkey. But really with the uncertainty, they're concerned on, what's going to happen at the property, what rent collection is going to look like on a multifamily property in April, now in May and June. So we've been able to put a pause on that and then really just walk through our investors and let them know that we do have a solution available for them. And when there's time for them to actually put those funds to work, we will have funds available and be ready to service them. So if you have clients looking for a 1031 exchange solution, we're here, we're working, we're answering questions, and we'll be ready in July. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ken. Why don't we go to Mr. Kim Tran?
Hi guys, can you hear me
Kim?
okay?
We hear you good. Go ahead.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
sir. Go ahead.
So everybody, this is Kim Tran. I'm with CoStar and LoopNet. Thanks for having me on today. Just a couple things. If you have CoStar access, we are updating our analytics and data real time. And so if you're really trying to keep an eye on what's happening within the market, there's no better source of data. Definitely go in there, check out the news. We have a bunch of updated market analytics and market reports. We're posting videos daily. On the LoopNet side, I've got some great news for you guys who advertise on LoopNet right now. Because of this whole coronavirus situation, people just aren't touring properties in person anymore. And we're seeing an uptick on the amount of time people spend looking at listings online. And so because of that, at all advertising levels on LoopNet, we're now allowing people starting tomorrow to upload your own video, even if you've just got the basic silver listing on LoopNet. So for any of you wannabe videographers, get out there, put your gloves on, and take some virtual tours of your spaces for lease, because people really can't visualize that stuff unless they're actually kind of seeing it in person. And the closest thing you can do to that, besides a Matterport tour, is a video. So let me know if you have any questions about that. We do have some resources to show you how to shoot the best video to upload online. But other than that, hope everybody's doing well and staying safe.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kim. And Mr. Sean Pullen.
Hi, thank you everybody for having me here. This is Sean Pullen calling in from AIRCRE. I just wanted to talk about a couple things here as far as what we are doing to help you all out during this time with some educational pieces. Over the last few weeks, we have been holding town halls. These are free for anybody to enter. And so at the end of this, I will make sure to follow up with all of you with an email with the information for tomorrow's session. Tomorrow's session will be covering lease contract disputes in the wake of coronavirus. So it should be a very good session. It will be with an attorney named Brian Mashian, who some of you may already know through AIR as well. But all of these events are going to be on our website. So if you go to AIRCRE.com and then under the news and education section, you can find the links as well as the recorded versions of the past two that we did. So the first one on April 10th, that was about legal issues facing landlords, tenants, buyers, and sellers in the wake of the coronavirus. And then last week we did one about the CARES Act and how that is affecting the industry. So these are very good sessions. Again, totally free for anybody. Please join, send them out to your colleagues if you wish. It should be another great session tomorrow, and then keep an eye out for these as we are going to continue to do these on a weekly basis for the time being, as we are getting a very heavy response. We've had about anywhere from 400 to 600 people on the last two events, so they're really good to be involved with. But that's all I got for you. Thank you as always for your time.
Wonderful. Well, just want to thank each of our sponsors. There's no way we could do the things that we do without their support. And so each of them are open for business during this time. And please go ahead and sponsor or help them out and talk to them and use them as much as you can while we're in this time. All of them are open for business. And just want to give a quick shout out to Coast Escrow, Mr. Kip Kennedy and Brenda Burnett. They've done a wonderful job in regards to serving our members as well. So if anyone needs some escrow services, it's a wonderful, wonderful escrow for all of us to use. And so also want to talk about sponsorship and membership. And so if anyone is interested in becoming a sponsor of our chapter, we are looking for sponsors. Sponsorship starts as low as $500, goes up to $2,500, and definitely during these times is a time where we could definitely use sponsor because we could use as much resources as we could get. Also want to talk about membership as well. What we're doing for the month of April, our typical membership fee is $175 if you are an affiliate and $150 if you are a designee. So what we're doing for the month of April, anyone who is interested in becoming a member, it's just $99 that we have a special going on for the month of April. If anyone has an interest in regards to becoming a sponsor, becoming a member, please go to SoCal CCIM where you get more information on that. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and open up our past president's roll call. And so it's a true honor, and it's amazing that all of us are on one call at one time. And I am getting some messages from Joe DiCarlo. So as we're going through this, I'm going to try to walk them through the best I can with trying to get them on here as well. And so we do have a lot of experience and a lot of expertise. And so the purpose of our meeting today is to bring in not only our past presidents to get an opportunity to see their faces and catch up with them, but it's also an opportunity for us to hear a little bit more as to what they're currently doing. Naturally, all of them have a lot of experience in the commercial real estate market. So it's wonderful for each of them to be here today and be able to share information and to share some strategies that they are currently using in this during this time. And so for our participants, you will see a Q&A box. And so what we want to do is we want to try to make this as interactive as possible. So if you would, please use the Q&A box to ask any questions that you may have. We will get to them. When you do put your question out there, please designate as to which president you would like to answer that. There's no way we could get through this with having everyone answering the same question. So if you would, please use the Q&A box and point out which president you would like to answer. I do have a few questions as well that I will call on two presidents, and if there's another president that would like to chime in and answer that question, we'd love to hear from that person as well. And so we're going to go ahead and start off with a little poll to kind of get things going and get some people interactive, because again, we want to make this as interactive as possible. And so the poll that we're going to start off with is going to be, what's your typical attire for business during these Zoom calls? And so a lot of us have been hearing, I've been doing a lot of Zoom calls these past several weeks, and this seems to be the new norm. But let's hear from our participants as to what's been the new dress attire for these Zoom calls. Naturally, you see me in a suit right now, but I do have shorts on below. So what kind of attire are you showing up as for your Zoom calls? And I'll go ahead and close this out in 5 seconds. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, well, I'm going to end the polling here, and I'm going to go ahead and share the results. There we go. We got a tie. 45% casual, and another 45% say dress on top and casual on bottom.
Beautiful.
That seems to be the new norm. So let me stop sharing here. So, all right, so I'm going to go, and I'd like to start this off, and basically I'm going to go in order as I see here on my screen. And I'm going to stop sharing this here because we want to see everyone's lovely faces. And but we want to start off with Gene Trowbridge. You are the founder of SoCal CCIM. love for you to share with us as to the years you started everything off. How did this all start off? Naturally, we're all here because of you. So, Gene, tell us how this all started.
Thanks, Gary. I came out from Minnesota in 1979, and there was a chapter here called the Southern California CCIM chapter, and the boundaries, the geographical boundaries of that chapter were the Mexican border all the way up to Kern County, from the ocean to Arizona. And it was a huge space. We met in Newport Beach, and I'm trying to think of what hotel it was that we were at. It's still there. It's where they have the tennis tournaments, you guys. Forget what hotel it is down on Jamboree, right by the Coast Highway. And we had a large attendance, but most of the attendance was from San Diego. The reason we met in Newport Beach is this is where the Institute held all the classes. And so that was the home of the chapter at that time. And a fellow by the name of Arnold Koblenz, who went on to be the president of the Institute, who was a San Diego CCIM, he and I got together and we said, you know, we should really have two chapters. Driving all the way up from San Diego to see this, to do this is too hard. People in Newport Beach don't want to drive to San Diego, so let's just have two chapters. Well, then all of a sudden the group from LA said, well, let's have three chapters. So we went to the Institute and we were able, I believe in 1981, to form three chapters, San Diego, LA, and our chapter, which has had a couple names over the years. And that's where we came from. So that's been a good decision. I think over the years, the chapter, both the LA and our chapter, have fought for membership. And I know San Diego has been hugely successful. And I'm proud that they're happy down there and we're happy here. And so I was probably the president, probably in 81. I don't really remember. I've been involved in the Institute for 42 years now, and 40 years I spent as an instructor, and I'm now what they call a senior emeritus, which means I have retired and they had to give me a title, and I don't do much in that arena anymore. But that's my story.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Gene. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to use my screen here, and this is how I'm going to use it to go in order. And so it might be a little bit different on everyone's end. But Mr. Willie Hugren, why don't you tell us what year you were president and what was going on during your time? Willie.
I was president in 2004, and at the time it was before the 2008, 2009 collapse, and things are going pretty good, pretty healthy. And one of the questions you have, I've been a CCIM for 21 years.
Wow. That's great. Well, thank you, Willie. Thank you so much for your participation. And, you know, Willie is also part of our board, and he's been very instrumental in regards to putting on our events here. So thank you so much for all your help and your guidance, Willie. Mr. Jim Risha.
Hey guys, how are you? I've been a two-time president. I was president, I believe, in 2011 and 2018. 2011, we were coming off a few fun years in the industry. So we were just getting back to work about that time. And 2018, we were at the top of the market. Things were going great. So I got to be president on both ends of this last cycle. And had a great time, great experience. And I believe I became a CCIM in the early 2000s. I started my journey. I think I took CCIM 101 in like 1993, and then took a couple years off.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you for all your help and your services and participating for today. Mr. Kevin Carter. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Gary. Hi. I actually had to go on to my credenza and see when I became a CCIM. So here we go. If that shows, I'm trying to hold it up.
It's
Does that
your
show?
virtual background that's preventing it.
Oh,
No,
my
it's
background
not showing
says
up.
it. My plaque says 2004, so I'll go with that. So what's that? What's the math on that, Gene? Can you run run the calculations on that? I think that's
16.
16 fun, glorious years. I was CCIM president in the mid 2000s before the Great Recession. So it was great times before the Great Recession. What was going on? All kinds of craziness in the financing and securitized loans. We can go on and on about the good old days, but those good old days went to a crashing halt. And gosh, I still have a lot of friends that I sold Blockbuster and Hollywood Video triple net leases to. I'm kidding. I didn't sell triple net.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. I can tell you when I first started coming around CCIM, you were president during that time. And so I want to thank you so much for your time and your services as well.
Oh, thanks, Gary.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Steve Eberly.
Hi guys, I started my commercial real estate career back in 1985, and shortly after that, I think I met Willie Hugon, who I give a shout out to, and Rex Allen for encouraging me to get into CCIM. So to them, I'm indebted for that. Once I got into CCIM, Gene Trowbridge and Joe DiCarlo stepped in real fast to give me any support that I needed to. And I needed a lot of support when I was president in 2005. Biggest learning experience was it was the first time in that kind of position. I felt like a fish out of water, and CCIM nationally and our chapter stepped in and said, here's how we do it. And it was a great experience. That was back when our real estate, industrial, and the airport and in South County was about 50% exactly as what it is today, same buildings. So it's been an interesting journey with CCIM. We've been here all along, and at the national level, anytime I've called, in one call, I've always gotten a solution. They've been very supportive. So my hats to that organization as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you for your time today. All right, Mr. Rob Lee, you're up.
Hey guys, so good to see everybody. I'm ready for this co-working with a 4-year-old to be over very soon. And one word of advice: never cut your hair with clippers after happy hour. So anyway, I was recruited, I think, on site in Arizona by Mr. Tony Guglielmo there. Just kind of on the fly. I was still taking classes, and he said, hey, you should come be part of the chapter. And we were in Scottsdale at that AZ event, and then kind of fast tracked the classes so I could get involved in the chapter. And I think it was, I don't have my plaque here. We just moved, so everything's in boxes. But it's, I think I did the test in 06 or 07, and the president, the card said 8, and then had a false start in 12 when I moved to San Diego after Gene vouched for me. Sorry about that. But, I had a great experience. I mean, I've got great friendships, like I'm sure like you guys do, across the U.S. I was just in New Orleans the night before Mardi Gras. Back in the old days, I would have stayed for Mardi Gras. Thank God I didn't. But I was there and saw Boudreaux Blanton, and we got to hang out and have dinner. It was great. And everywhere I go, I always try to connect with CCIMs I know. And I transitioned out of the brokered side right during the downturn, global financial crisis, and got into raising equity, and then we transitioned that into the principal operator side the last 4 or 5 years, and we'll talk more about that later. But lost track on the questions. But in general, it's been just phenomenal experience, and got a lot out of it. Still get a lot out of it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Rob. I mean, my beginning of CCIM, I know you were around and you were doing quite a bit for our chapter. So thank you for your time and for your services as well. So thank you, Rob.
Of course. We had a great team. So, I mean, it's so good to see everybody because everybody worked, was wearing like 3 hats. So thank you.
Yeah. All right, Nita.
You're on mute, Nita.
You're still on mute.
Go to
There you
bottom
go.
left corner of
Good
your
afternoon,
computer.
gentlemen. I am only 21 years old, young with CCIM. I started receiving the pin on November 10, 1999, and served as a president because of Mr. Randy Mason, the handsome president. And I was very happy to be able to help and get a lot of networking at the meeting of CCIM, as well as building the friendship with so many friends. And Mr. Gene Trobert is also one of my instructors when I study CCIM. Thank you to Gene, and it's nice to see that you still look very young.
Very good.
Regarding your question, you want me to tell me what I did, what my business, or you wanted me to tell you later?
You know, why don't we come back to that, Nita? But yeah, thank you for the introduction, and you did a great job. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. John Kataki, my man.
You're on mute, John. You're on mute.
Here, I just unmuted you. Go ahead. No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So I served right after Nita. What was that? 2016. I joined CCIM. Well, I got my PIN back in 2011. I was recruited by basically Richard Cato and Dave Weinstein. I don't know if any of you guys remember them. So basically, well, no, just a short tenure. And sorry. Well, Gary, I guess Gary became president after me, so that's it.
Yeah, great. Thank you, John, and you were very instrumental in helping me get into you know, more involved with CCIM. So I want to thank you for that as well. So thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mr. Tony Guglielmo.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, how are all you doing?
Uh-oh, we got some audio stuff.
So,
Your internet's not working, Tony.
okay?
Tony, are you still alive out there?
Are you underwater?
I'm alive. You guys can't hear
All right.
me?
Hey,
Okay?
Tony, I'm gonna mute you. Why don't you go ahead and call in with your phone, and then we're gonna come back to you if that's okay. Is that good? Perfect. Okay. All right, Mr. Joe DiCarlo, my man.
I'm finally in. For some reason, the password
Yes, sir.
got me in. I've been at CCIM for over 25 years. I think Gene was president more than one time because Gene's the one that really got me in. And I think I was president after him in Orange County because we weren't that big of a chapter at those days. But I remember that the time was good. We were all making money and having a good time, and learned a lot about the demographics, and that was an area that I was kind of not up to par in, and that's one of the main things that I got out of the CCIM courses, and from that it's helped me all throughout my career. I just been going to North Carolina, and I've used some of those same things I learned here back there to buy some property. So anyway, I want to thank Gene for all the help he gave me getting me in and helping me and getting me started.
Well, you've been awesome, Joe, and I hear your name, you know, quite often. So you've created a wonderful place within our industry and within CCIM. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, my
Good to see you on
poster's at the post office too, if you want to look.
That's great. All right, Mr. Randy Mason.
Yes, hi. So I got my CCIM designation in 2006, and during my pinning ceremony, which Tony was part of, he suggested I become president. So I took his advice eventually, and in I think it was 2008 or so, right when the market was just doing really well. Somebody to fill the position, so I said I'll do it, and ended up doing it for I think like 4 or 5 years. So that's basically my story in a nutshell.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Randy. You've been very supportive to our chapter, and you've done a lot. So thank you so much. I mean, everyone has. And Randy, you were instrumental in pushing me into the presidential role. So thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate it.
It's because I wanted to get out of it. I mean, I love it. It's like, but 5, 6 years. Come on. All right. Anyway, you're wonderful at doing it. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Randy. All right, Tony. We good, Tony?
Can you hear me now?
I just unmuted you. Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, you got me? Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is all this technology stuff is new for me, man. I'm just like to kick the rocks out there and do some street brokerage, but I'm getting the hang of it. And I'll just say, my brief history, I'll keep it short. I got involved with CCIM. I took my first course in January of 2009. January of 2004. And I remember Gene Trowbridge was the instructor, and the way he taught, the way his instruction came across was just so fluid, and I loved it. I instantly knew it was what I wanted to do. So I proceeded to take the remaining 3 curriculum core courses. I've had Walt Clements, I had Sam Foster, Susie Walker-Jones, and all of those people really just I admire, and their level of knowledge and ability to teach is powerful. So that inspired me to get involved in the chapter. I was chapter president 2006, 2007, and then came back in 2010 when things were a lot different. But I do remember one of the most memorable things that I just wanted to add that really showed me the true value of the CCIM was I was working on a deal with a client in California. Him and I met getting our pilot's licenses together, and he bought a plane before he had a pilot's license, and I had a pilot's license. So we were 1031ing out of an apartment building, and he wanted to buy this office building up in Springville, Utah, just out of Salt Lake. And I'm like, I don't know the first thing about Springville. So I had met a guy named Zach Hartman who worked for CBRE at the time. And and I said, hey, can you give me some comps, man? What's going on up in that market? And he proceeded to educate me, and really was a huge help. We flew my client's plane up to Provo, and he picked us up at the little tiny airport and drove us around all day. And we flew home, and I just remember thinking, this is so powerful to be a part of a group like this, not to mention the technology's cutting edge. The networking is incredible. And so to me, I'll never forget that. And there's been a lot of other experiences as well. So just wanted to add that. And thank you guys all for putting this together, Gary. And it's great to see all of you.
Yeah,
and I'm still alive, Gene. It's a little hot out here today, but I'm here.
All right, we have a special guest that I asked you to jump on with us just to kind of share some words of wisdom. Mr. Eddie Blanton, our CCIM Institute president.
Hey, everybody. How you doing today? It's great to see so many friends and to see the Zoom faces out there like we always do. And if you see the background behind me, CCIM marketing department has put together about 6 or 8 different backgrounds for CCIMs to utilize during your calls. And I would like to let everybody know the COVID-19 web link that we've been utilizing for all the resources and also daily information is www.ccim.com/COVID-19. That's COVID-19. And you'll be able to pull these down right off of that website and utilize them, brand yourselves, and or if you like that office background, then that's fine too. But we're putting the resources out there for you. But Gary gave me a call earlier today and asked me to participate in the call today. So Gary, thank you so much. And once again, it's great to see so many of the past presidents of your chapter. And I know how it is to serve in 2010 as you're coming out of a recession, because that's when I was the North Carolina chapter president. So I guess the good Lord wants me to be president in times like this. And so here I am in 2020 as the Institute's global president. and I don't take it lightly. I promise you. You can be a leader in great times, in uncertain times, and in bad times. I don't choose the times that I'm the leader. The body of CCIM chose the time for me to be CCIM's president. And I promise you that each and every day, myself, our management team, and our unbelievable Institute staff teams are working hard on each of every one of your behalfs and all the other members out there worldwide. We are strong. We're in a great place. Our reserves are still in excess of 10 million, almost $11 million in reserve. We have cut almost $2 million out of our $14 million budget this year in the first wave of cutbacks, but we haven't cut our member services. And that's the most important thing. I expressed to our staff very early on as we started to look at financial expenditures that there are times when our members need us. And right now, our members need us more than ever. They need us to be their eyes, their ears, their advocate, producing items and good resources for them to provide to their clients. And not only that, but also for yourselves. Everything down to our hard work with the Landlord Tenant Act issues and the mortgage information that's going on out there right now that we've worked so side by side and so hard with NAR and the lobbyists to get pushed through. A lot of us are not just brokers. A lot of us are principal owners. We're investors and we're advisors. We're not just a retail specialist. And in fact, for those of us that are retail specialists, we're not a retail specialist, if you know what I mean, because times have definitely changed, haven't they? And so there's a lot going on out there, and I really appreciate it. And I did want to congratulate this Southern California chapter on something. Last week, we started our CCIM mid-year annual meeting, and we were supposed to be in my hometown of Charlotte, so I'm sorry I didn't get to host everybody here, but we'll do it again in spring 2022 here. But that being said, we did have a great virtual environment. We did not cease our existence and did not cease meeting together. We did it in a Zoom webinar environment, but we held meetings last Thursday, Friday, and also Monday and Tuesday. And we finished up with our board meeting on Tuesday afternoon. So I can tell you with trust that running a 3-hour and 45-minute board meeting with CCIMs is something that I don't wish on any of you guys to have to do out there. But I will tell you that it kept the Institute's business moving forward. And so the willingness, the patience of everyone out there to go through that 4-day time period and to keep the business of our Institute moving forward was just unbelievable. And it's an experience that I'll never forget, that's for sure. But I want to congratulate on Friday afternoon, the Southern California chapter was announced as receiving a Chapter of Excellence Award. So I want to congratulate you for that. That's great stuff. I see so many of the presidents and past presidents that are here, and your chapter is very unique because most chapters have a president that serves 1 year at a time. I was looking at that slide that Gary had up earlier in this set of meetings here. Some of you served more than 1 year. Many of you served 2 or more years for your chapter. So congratulations. And Randy, I know all about you. Okay, we saw each other many, many years at the Institute level, and I know what you were doing. So you were having a great time with it. Yeah, I won't tell all the secrets. Don't worry on any of you, but that's a two-way street. Don't tell them on me either, okay? But Gary, thanks for inviting me here today. And is there anything specific that you'd like me to cover?
No, I think you did a great job. I think just your presence here and the information that you provide as to what the Institute is doing is perfect. So yeah, I want to thank you so much for your time, Eddie. You definitely are helping us all, get through this trying times, and with your leadership and with the Institute, it's been a wonderful place for people in the commercial real estate profession to go to be a wonderful resource. So thank you for all your time and for all your efforts. It's been awesome.
You're welcome. I really appreciate it, and it's an honor and a privilege to be in this position. And at the end of the day, everyone on this call, and including myself, we're volunteers in what we do. We have a passion and a love for it. And it works because of all of us. And it takes an army. Chapters are absolutely the best boots on the ground that we could ever have as an institute. Each and every day, I tell people, wear your pin. Someone will stop you and ask you, what is that? And that is an open invitation to let them know what you do for a living and within your career. That you can't just pick up the phone and call them because of do not call and things like that. But they're asking you what your pin is, and that's an open invitation. And so please do wear it proudly. Lastly, I want to leave with one thing. In my fall inauguration speech that was in San Diego, okay, beautiful area, by the way, I used a title on the speech, Change the Game. I did not realize we were going to be changing the game this much, folks, okay? So I'm just letting you know that in advance. But the title of the speech was Change the Game, and the challenge was to do 1, 2, or 3 things totally different than you do it today, and it will make a difference. So I want to leave you with that challenge here again today. Think of 1, 2, 3 things that you can do different in your daily activity, whether you're in commercial real estate brokerage, investments, whatever you're doing, and do it differently to make yourself better this afternoon and tomorrow than we were this morning. And so that's the challenge I'd like to leave for each and every one of you, and onward and upward, and we're going to get through it, and we're going to be strong. So Gary, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Very good. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open up another poll question, and this is to all the participants, and our panelists are able to partake in this as well. And so to get a better idea as to who's on this call, we want you to tell us as to your relationship with CCIM, whether you're a designee, you're a candidate, you're a sponsor, you're a member, you're a guest visiting us for the first time. Let's get an idea on who's on this call. We're going to get into some questions right now, so I think it would be helpful for each of our presidents to have an idea as to who the audience is. And so I do see quite a few of us are answering it right now. And all right, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll in 5 seconds. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, let me share the results. All right, can everyone see that? All right, so we have about 45% of everyone on the call are designees. We do have some candidates, and we have a good portion here that are guests. And so I want to welcome everyone and thank everyone for participating. And so great, thank you for that. All right, I have a question that I want to open this up with, and I think this is a question that I think a lot of us have been coming across quite a bit. And the question is in regards to having to do with rent. So we're all past presidents. We all have a lot of experience and knowledge on real estate, commercial real estate, dealing with landlords, dealing with tenants, our own investments. And so this is a wonderful platform to hear on how each of you are handling these different topics. And so, Mr. Joe DiCarlo, you have a lot of tenants that you manage, and I'm sure your days have been filled with negotiating rent for April and May. I'm going to start off with Joe, and if anyone else would like to chime in, maybe Rob Lee, in regards to how are you handling the environment today where all these tenants are asking for some free rent? What are you doing?
Thank you, Gary. As most of you know, my specialty is property management, and being a health and safety provider, we're still open. Our problem is I've got some people that are leery of working, and so we had to spread the spaces out, and my people work half from home, half remotely, and it took us a while to get everything hooked up remotely, but it's working out well. But getting to the question of rents, April was a tough month, but I think May will be the telling month, and it all depends on how much subsidies people get. But let me just give you a little summary of the Irvine Company, which is the big bad boy of rents. I mean, they don't give a quarter for anything. For residential, they were giving you you could pay half of the rent and defer the other half of the rent for 2 months and pay it back over a 6-month period. And for commercial, you could defer your rent for 3 months and pay it back over a year. So I kind of use that as my guide, but we attacked each, or we have approached each one of these situations differently. Like Ortho Mattress, they sent a letter and they they wanted a furlough of rent for 3 months. Well, I looked up the word furlough and it could mean a lot of different things. So I wrote them back, we'll defer your rent for 3 months. They wrote back, no, that's not what we meant. We wanted not pay them. That is a difficult location to re-rent, and I was able to convince the owner that, it would be better to have them there with 3 months of free rent and still have a tenant at the end of this than have a vacant space, because they were going to use the force majeure and try to get out of the lease. But overall, our company, we've collected 93% of our residential rents in April and about 60% of our commercial rents. We manage a lot of smaller apartment or shopping centers, and we got a lot of restaurants, and they're dead. I mean, they're in strip centers, so they don't have drive-through, so it's very difficult for them to get money to pay the rent. Now, most of you, hopefully some of you at least, have applied for the SBA loan for the payroll, which we have done, and we hope to get it in the next week or so. But that's going to be a great thing, because for my residential, that will pay for my owner's on-site managers for 2.5 months. I mean, that is absolutely super, and it's a forgivable loan if you don't lay anybody off. So people are getting all these funds, and what we want to do is to keep them, hey, you still owe the rent. When you get the money, don't spend on something else, pay the rent. So, but May is going to be the telling month. So we all got our fingers crossed of what's going to happen on rent collections in May. Anyways, anybody else have any thoughts on this?
Rob, you have a lot of experience in this as well. Why don't you tell us what's going on?
Yeah, I would just tell you, our shop, we primarily manage and buy and acquire investment grade medical office buildings for kind of the day job. But on the side, we also acquire self-storage and apartments, et cetera. And we actually acquired an apartment complex in Kentucky, 5 buildings, a little portfolio the day that Trump kind of made this a national emergency. So we're handling it two different ways. On the medical side, we've got some very big hospital tenants, some names you would know, that just asked us for 6 months of total deferment. Some of these leases are $250,000 a month, so it was a pretty big hit. We put together kind of a whole best practices process, right? Where I'm happy to share this with anybody who's having trouble with their tenants. What I would do is introduce you to my partner in the business, Twee Turner, and she comes from big companies like Equity Office and Arden and stuff like that. So she's been around the block a few times. But this is new for everybody. So we put a process in place where we ask the tenants to request the hardship. So we have proof that helps us with our lenders, hopefully down the road. So you can establish when the request was. We have an immediate pushback, if you will, which is basically asking them to prove the hardship in some way. And then it's good old-fashioned negotiation. To Joe's point, like on the apartment buildings, I mean, I've done everything from, we're sending out newsletters to help people know how to order stuff online for food. We've got extra commercial cleaning crews going through on the common areas. We've even converted a couple of the tenants who lost their jobs into unit flippers with paint, putting them to work, saying, yeah, we're happy to let you stay here for a few months with, no rent, but we're going to convert that to labor, and here's a paintbrush. So we've, I don't know how good that paint's going to turn out. We'll see, but we're doing anything we can. But on the commercial side, when it comes to office or industrial, most of the stuff we do is triple net leases. We have a behemoth property in Austin, which is the Austin VA Center. That's been a nightmare, frankly, with the government. One of the worst tenants out there, in my opinion. Hope nobody from the government's on the phone, but it's happy to share those with you. We've spent a lot of time on it. We're essential services, I think, as any property management is, but especially with medical. So most of these drive-throughs that, Providence Hospital has in Orange County, we manage those. So we've got a drive-through COVID testing thing in Brea at our main facility. So happy to share it, connect you with Twee. She's great. You love her. And I'll tell her to share any resources that aren't confidential, letters, emails. You know, we've gotten a lot of legal advice on this. We spent a lot of money on legal advice on what you can and can't say, what you can and can't do. So happy to share where possible.
Great. Thanks, Rob. And Twee's awesome. I know Twee and tell her I said hi. She's great.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay,
jump
so
in there.
Sure, go ahead.
I was just going to say, some of the landlords that I talked to regarding industrial here in Irvine area, many of them are taking their time to underwrite the situation, for lack of a better way to put it, and really trying to understand what the plight is and trying to assist with not forgiveness so much as pushing it down the road and working it out on a one-by-one basis.
My business
Wonderful.
works with a lot of primarily apartment owners. They're syndicators, and I don't know much about what's going on in their apartment projects, but I will tell you across the line, every syndicator of apartment buildings that I have has stopped cash distributions starting April, and they won't be making any in May, and they're just hoarding cash because they don't exactly know where this is going to go. So that's the first thing. And then I've been hearing questions about capital calls and what can you do inside of the operating agreements to generate more cash, and what are the availabilities to a syndicator. But the first step is always just to take the distributable cash and keep it. That's what we're doing.
Wonderful.
Just to
thank you,
piggyback,
Gene.
Gary, if I may, on Gene's point. I'm sorry, somebody else.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to Gene's point, that's exactly what we're doing. For example, on the buildings, we closed in January, and we were able to get the local bank, and every bank's going to be different. Some of the bigger banks here, we're having a really tough time working with them. And to somebody else's earlier point, just keep paying your mortgage if you can. I wouldn't go there. We saw that movie back in 08, 09, technical defaults, et cetera. But we had the regional local banks on some of these smaller deals we did give us immediate approval for 6-month interest only loans, and then modify our rate from 4.85 roughly to 4% fixed per year, with a floor. I mean, so every bank's going to be different. Every bank's a little overwhelmed, from my understanding, with these, PPP applications. I don't know if you can even find anybody who will do that. And in our case, on the medical side, we have too many employees to do it. But it's, I would work with your lender as soon as possible, obviously, because now they're starting to, think like an owner a little bit.
Rob, and then go ahead. Was that?
Oh, it's Kevin. I just wanted to say I'm a principal in medical office and industrial properties. I've been partially successful in taking a blend and extend program. I want the tenant to be committed to the project. If they're not, then that certainly is going to impact how we address this hopefully short-term situation. But I've also encountered behemoths that are using, and I believe, in my opinion, exploiting the situation. I'll name names here. Lumber Liquidators just went dark. They've been a tenant of mine for 10 years, and they're just not answering and not paying rent. And I've seen this type of behavior from mattress firms as well, that do restructuring, bankruptcy, and then just basically hold the landlords hostage for who will drop their rent cheapest. And those are the places they'll continue. So I was going into this, my biggest concern was the big tenants, the large national tenants, using this to grind the landlords. And that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, Hertz did it to one of my clients. So just
yeah,
stop paying rent.
It definitely seems. Yeah, it definitely seems as if the bigger guys are the ones that are just telling the landlords as to how this is going to happen in regards to the rent for the next few months. And so we've been getting a lot of that, been seeing a lot of that. Mr. John Baker, you are a sponsor of our chapter. You are an attorney. You've been doing some amazing work, and I know you've been extremely busy in regards to all of this. Do you have anything to add in regards to what if a landlord wants to evict one of these tenants? I mean, what can they do at this time, if anything? John.
Well, right now you can't evict anybody, both because of the governor's rules or orders, as well as the court's orders. The Orange County Superior Court is not allowing any kind of eviction to be. Well, first of all, nothing can be filed, and you're not going to be able to file an eviction when they do open. Because their rationale was that they can't tell the difference between different kinds of unlawful detainer complaints. So they're just going to not allow any of them. Outside of evictions, you can still do mediations online. You can still do arbitrations online. But most of, I don't think any of the standard leases allow arbitration to evict, because then you need to, and it wouldn't work anyway, because then you need to get a judgment and confirmed as a judgment, and the courts are closed, and then and so you'd never be able to get the order to send to the sheriff to be able to evict somebody.
Right. Great. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. We do have a couple questions here, and I think the first two questions kind of relate to each other. Someone put out the question specifically regarding retail. What is the forecast for short-term and long-term? What are the opportunities for brokers? And so naturally we hear retail is one of the biggest sectors that's getting hit the hardest during this time. What's the future of retail? What's the future of real estate as a whole once things go back to whatever normal is? Willie, what are your thoughts, Willie?
I think we're going to see a lot of retailers going out of business. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for subleases or to release space. There's going to have to be a lot of concessions to be able to help these businesses that aren't making it. What's going to get hit hardest, I think, is the food industry, because they operate on small margins to start with. And then the other thing, once the lifts are opened up, there's rumors that they're only going to be able to occupy half the amount of tables that they currently have. So not only is they being hit, but their volume is going to be decreased, which is going to have a direct proportion to landlord. The tenants are going to go back to landlord and say, look, we can't operate at full capacity. We can't pay full rent. And the landlords are going to have to cave in. And then they're going to have to deal with their lenders, which is going to be another challenge. And it's a snowball effect. But I think there's going to be opportunities. I think freestanding buildings are going to become available. And I think there's going to be an impact on prices, both on lease rates and sales price, especially in the retail segment.
Right. Jim, what's the future of real estate here? What do we see out there?
I think I totally agree with Willie, and in my role as coaching guys, I coach guys all over the country, and certainly I would agree that it seems like retail is probably going to be affected the most. And one of the things I've been telling guys as I talk to them is hey, talk to your clients, talk to the people, and try to get a pulse on who's going to be the early ones out of this. What businesses, so as you're thinking on the retail side, what businesses are going to take advantage of this? Who's going to be the operators that take advantage of second generation restaurant space, et cetera, that kind of stuff. And the more we can spend time answering that question today, the more we can alter our practice to be in front of what's going to happen and how we're going to get out of this. I think office space, for instance, it will probably be changed forever. People are they're figuring out how to work remotely. So I think the demand for office space is going to go down. So I think we're going to see a push down. Tenants will push for a smaller space, but they're going to have to figure out. Space planners are going to look at stuff differently.
So what I'm finding,
Tony, go ahead, Randy.
Yeah. So what I'm finding is specifically, I received 2 emails while we're on this telephone call or this Zoom. Bottom line is they're not signing a longer term lease. We were scheduled to sign another 5-year lease, renew. They said, you know, look, we've been working remotely. We're a software company. Would the landlord consider a 6-month renewal at the moment? We're thinking about downsizing. They're in 2 separate suites. They're thinking, hey, we'll just downsize altogether. The lease expires the end of August, so September 1. So they've got a little bit of time. With regard to sublease space, there's going to be a lot of that on the market, unfortunately. With regard to retail, I think we are all finding how easy it is to order things online with your phone for Amazon, as an example. So I'm not going to the stores like I used to order, you know, a new cable for the phone or a case or something like that. I'll just, bam, just do it on the fly. With regard to industrial, that one I don't think is going to be hit as hard. My industrial clients right now, one of them wants to buy the building that they're in, and fortunately the landlord is now interested in selling it. The bad news is that we may not be able to get financing, so that's going to be interesting. And he's pre-qualified, so that's crazy. Another industrial client has said, man, my business is going gangbusters. He's retooled. He's now making PPE, right? PPE?
PPE?
Yeah, stuff or product. I've got another client right now who's actually looking for some storage space. He's importing gel hand sanitizer from China, believe it or not. Also face masks. So I don't think the industrial side is going to be impacted much. So that's my 2 cents.
Tony, industrial. That's your world, man. What do you think about industrial?
Yeah. So my takeaway so far, I agree with all the panelists so far as well. But I'm more of a generalist. I do industrial because of the market that I'm in. But on a generalist approach, what I'm seeing, and we've got like 54 listings across all product types, and I'm seeing there's clearly going to become a set of winners out of this and a set of losers. And there's retail's obviously right now struggling. That's the biggest loser. I think industrials, I wouldn't even call them a winner just yet. I think there's still a lot of unknowns right now, but it seems to be, the direct, like one of the safer asset classes that we have. But from the brokerage standpoint, I'm not, in terms of the rent collection, I don't have a ton of experience. I don't do property management, so I'll take Joe, DeCarlo, and all your guys' input. But on the brokerage side, I've got a deal that's going into escrow today. The guy builds wind farms, okay, and he's just signed a $22 million contract. He's positive. I've got we did a lease on a 10-acre piece in Rialto. The guy builds roads and bridges and stuff like that. He's optimistic. I mean, there's just a whole host of optimistic people in this environment. And as brokers, I think our job is, to try to find those opportunities. At least that's what I'm trying to do. I did see another question. I wanted to answer it since I've got the mic right now. It says, will virtual inspections become a reality or a necessity? And so far, since this has gone on, I've shown like 2 properties. I show up, gloves, mask, feel like I'm entering into the Twilight Zone, and I stumble through these properties. And both of those times, neither one of those guys liked it. So I think it's going to be a necessity to qualify buyers. I think for every one of my listings going forward, I want to do a virtual tour. And when people call in, I'm going to say, hey, before I tour you through the building, have you seen the virtual tour? Because you're going to be able to get rid of a lot of the riffraff tours, and you need to limit your exposure. But it also saves you time. I mean, we should have been doing this anyways, but now we're just being forced to do it. So I think it is a reality. I think if you want to be a successful broker, time is of the essence, and having a virtual tour on your listing is going to be a necessity if you want to compete at a higher level. Those are my thoughts.
Wonderful. And during this time, I mean, what I'm finding is that we're still getting calls for a lot of our listings as well. But at the same time, I am finding that some buyers are a little concerned as to visiting the property, especially if there's other people that are out there. So how does a buyer purchase at this time if they're going through escrow? How do we value a property at this time especially if we're thinking that values are going to start going down. I mean, is this a good time to buy? And if it is, how do we buy and how do we do our typical inspections and our typical due diligence? John? Kentucky?
Who do you want to answer that?
What was the question again?
Go ahead, John.
As far as value?
As far as value, how do you put value on a property? Right.
Right now, I had 2 LOIs go out, and I essentially just said the seller basically backed away on 2 properties, and I'm in limbo right now as far as trying to purchase property. And people are telling me that that I should probably sit back and see what goes on. So that's me. And I have another project up in Arroyo Grande that's basically limbo also. We were supposed to go to Planning Commission in November, and we're out here in April and going into May, and hopefully we're supposed to go in front of Planning Commission on end of May, and that's all going to be virtual. So that value-wise, I don't know. I couldn't.
Gene, I think you're everybody's instructor. Here's your time, and we're all coming to you as our instructor. How do you value a property at this time, Gene?
Well, I don't have any idea about that, but I will tell you. And I look at some of the wiser heads here, Joe, and some of you have been in business for a long time through all these downturns. My experienced syndicators are coming to me today and talking to me about doing blind pools. With a track record, let's raise some money because there's going to be blood in the streets. Let's be ready to buy some properties from the banks, auctions, foreclosures, whatever. How do we do that, Gene? And I've been through it all, and it's always the same thing. There's always money out there on the sidelines waiting to buy. And I think buyers are going to come out. I think the problem with sellers is we just had one deal fall through where the defeasance went up $1 million in 6 months because of the drop of the long-term interest rate, the 10-year T-bill. So the defeasance went up $1 million. So there goes that deal. The seller's not going to sell right now. The other side of the coin is if you get a new loan where it's got yield maintenance, the interest rate today is pretty low. So it's probably not going to be a huge risk in the future. But that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing refinancing going with people who can get loans. They're taking the money, they're keeping it in the bank, they're not distributing it, and they're talking to me about doing blind pools. But I noticed one comment that came through. Sharon, who was president of LA, is on there and said, geez, the first year NOI projection is going to be a challenge. That's the problem, isn't it? Is this an April-May issue, or is this a 2020, 2021 issue? I have my own feelings about it, and I'm more of an April-May issue guy than long-term, because we've been through all this stuff, and it's never really, really long-term. Okay.
And hey, Gary, just a comment, if I may, on Gene's comment. That's exactly right on the 10-year. That happened to us, where defeasance went from literally the deal we were trying to sell from $4 million to $14 million overnight on the Austin VA deal specifically. So we just took it off the market, and then fell last week out of contract with 2 others. Because if you're a CalSTRS or a big buyer, you're killing all deals where you're not hard on your deposit for the most part, because everybody's expecting, I think, better pricing, or just where the bottom is here, so they don't catch a falling knife. As far as the leases, some of our legal had advised us, and I'm not an attorney or CPA, but Baker or somebody else on the phone can probably talk to you offline, but we were told by our lenders, actually by our intermediaries who help us secure the lenders, be careful on your tenants and allowing them to have rent deferment or other items like that, because that could be a technical default in your loan agreement. So really look at your loan agreement so you're not getting yourself foreclosed upon because you're trying to be a nice guy. I'll look through it.
Right, absolutely. And typically what we find in the interest rate of markets, I mean, typically when interest rates drop, we tend to see cap rates drop a little bit at the same time. Now, do we think that we're going to be in a market where we see cap rates drop a little bit, which would typically increase, which increases the property value? Where are cap rates going to go? Steve Everly, what are your thoughts on that? You're on mute, Steve.
You're on mute, Steve.
My apologies.
There you go. There you go.
I think NOIs at risk will help people sit on the sidelines with confidence. So if they don't have to place the money now, they won't. I think you'll see cap rate compression because the rates will have a tendency to fall, in my opinion.
Right. That's great. Any other thoughts in regards to cap rates? Are they going down, staying the same, going up?
This is Joe. I think they're going up. You know, they basically, you know, the net operating income determines, you know, what the property is going to be worth, and the net operating income ain't going up; it's going down. So I think the cap rates are going to have to be adjusted upward, and that's where the good buys will coming in. And again, we manage a lot of smaller retail, and if you can take some of that retail and do adaptive reuse, where you can change the use of what is being now, like somehow if you can take 2 or 3 stores, knock them down, and then put a drive-through. Drive-throughs are going to be the key for restaurants. You know, the regular little restaurants in a shopping center are not going to be around the next 5 to 10 years. So drive-throughs, adaptive reuse to me is where the real money is going to be made.
Joe, my apologies. I agree with you. I misspoke when I presented my argument.
And so adaptive reuse is exactly something that we're hearing a lot of in regards to hotels, the hospitality market, in regards to office. I mean, are we going to start to see more properties be reused and readapted to maybe multifamily or into supportive housing or to something different? I mean, what's going to be happening to our properties? Are they going to be changed? Are we going to see a big change in how we use properties? Kevin Carter.
Pass.
So Gary, I think the hospitality industry might see more assisted living and memory care facilities at a hotel. It's a very natural transition. Big demand for our senior population getting older. Using those facilities works out real well. A few comments on office. I have a lease, for example, that's ready to go. And it says I can't sign the lease because I don't know if I sign the lease when I occupy the space. So I'm on hold, even though we changed the commencement date to June 1st. He said, I don't know if in June 1st I'll be able to operate. The other thing that people are talking about is more people are working out of their home. However, it's a known fact that home activity is not as successful as it being in an office. So yes, there's a big push for working out of the home, but I don't think the output and the productivity is there. So I think it's going to be up in the air what's going to happen. The other thing we know about WeWork, having up millions of square feet of space and giving back their space to the landlord. So even the executive suite concept where people can probably downsize into it, I don't think that's going to be a way of the future.
Nita, what are you seeing out there? You deal a lot with multifamily and a lot of different properties. What are you seeing out there? Hold on. You're on mute.
Yeah,
there you go.
I say throughout the years, a circle of downturn always find opportunity outside the norms. For example, just like I think of myself is in the middle of the ocean, what can I do to get myself safe to leave? And I think whatever you're talking about, I still feel, Jean say it may take only a few months, but I think this is going to be a long term until 2020-21. Based upon the plan that I read from the news China was doing, this it will be disturbing our country as well economics. But the good thing is, one thing for sure, every people from outside USA will think of USA as a heaven. You know why? We are the only country that produce and support the citizen. America first. You have the money distributed by the government to help the people. But other countries in Europe, in Asia, they're suffering. And when they're suffering, the people have money to invest, they will think of USA first. And that's why I see opportunity that I will be calling them, whatever you have industrial, they will change something. A hotel for the senior citizen might be a good answer, because if they can invest in that, might be good, okay? But I don't think it's the loss of opportunity, because I saw why to the circle of bad thing, because I look at something else differently. And I don't read the news, by the way. I don't read the bad news. I just only read whatever I can help with my brain and my business. That's the way I am. I'm very happy every day. I have no problem.
Thank you, Nita. And I'm just looking at time, and I can't believe we're already getting close to our time here. It feels like we just started. But I do want to talk a little bit about CCIM a little bit. I mean, that's how we're all connected here, and that's the organization that brought us all together. And so a question for anyone who is willing to chime in here. If you were approached by a person considering to become a CCIM designee, what advice would you give that person, along with what opportunities are out there once you're a designee as well? So, Randy, I see your finger up.
I'd like to answer that.
Okay, please.
First off, if you want to become a designee, don't think you're going to have to do it all within 1 year or so. My suggestion is find a location that is close to you and take one class a year. That's all you need to do, one class a year, and eventually you will get through it. It'll be a 5-year project, plus or minus, but eventually you'll get through it. If you plan on being in the industry over 5 years, then you'll definitely want to get it. And I have found it to be extremely beneficial with regard to crunching numbers, understanding the numbers. So that's my suggestion.
I'd like to make a comment. There's never a good time to take a class. So it's a matter of making a priority and scheduling it and then take it.
And so at this time, while we are in this COVID, CCM is offering all classes virtually. And what I did on the chat box right there, if anyone has an interest, I mean, that's a wonderful website for you to go to and for you to go ahead and sign up and take any classes that you have there. Gene, you want to say something?
I'll tell you, having been in the classroom in front of students for 40 years, the comment is there's never a good time to take a class is right. You know, when business is tough, you don't have any money, you think you really got to work hard to get the next deal. When business is good, you don't want to take time away because business is good. So it's always difficult, but I don't necessarily like teaching them, and I stopped teaching them early on. The Institute does have online courses, and they are well attended today, and especially 101. For those of you who are guests who haven't taken a course and think about starting, CI 101 is an extremely doable course online. The textbook is wonderful for self-study. Your calculator and your textbook and online, you can do great. As I told many of the instructors that I brought in and trained, you know, every year 1,000 people take our courses, absolutely correspondence, and they pass the test. When we're teaching, let's not screw things up. Just teach from the book. The book is perfect. The calculator works. 101, get that course over. You'll get excited. I bet everyone on this call says, boy, when I got through with 101, it was a heady experience. I wanted to go forward. So get started in 101, and that'll lead you to a successful career. I learned every single time I taught a course from the students. I learned so much, and then the networking will do me for many, many years in the future, I hope.
This is Nita. May I
Wonderful.
piggyback what Gene said? I really, really appreciate him, and this is very true for having 101 networking. I don't like online class. I prefer the live class because it help people to networking better, and you really build relationship from there. Secondly, right now CSAM Institute is offering All Destiny to take a refresh classes for complimentary. Why not taking time to learn something new or something that will help you to make more paychecks to come? I am going to sign up for all of them. Thank you.
When a CCIM candidate asks me about the worthwhileness of CCIM, I always reference a thing that happened to me. I was courting someone for a listing, and I was taking one of my CCIM courses. And in that course, they taught us this thing about a digital camera. So I went and rented a digital camera, made a brochure, showed up at the doorstep with a listing agreement and a brochure already made. He says, "You look like you're all ready to go. Where do I sign?" And that was directly related to the CCIM teaching.
That is cool. That is neat. And in regards to what Nita was talking about in the chat box, CCIM is offering refresher courses for all designees. So if you're a designee, if you have an interest in doing a refresher course on 101, 102, 103, or 104, in the chat box right there is a website to go to sign up for your refresher course. You also get CE credit. It's free. So if you have time, if you have the willingness to do that at this time, it's a wonderful opportunity that we all have to go to. And so with that, I'm just looking at the time again. Does anyone have any last comments to share?
I have one quick comment. I want to say at a local level, the greatest benefit that I've received from CCIM locally is the diversity of professionals, which I feel is unique to other real estate groups, in that we have commercial brokers, we have asset managers, property managers, educators, attorneys of every variety, title experts, economists, accountants, on, and really to make good decisions in today's world, whether you're an advisor or a principal, or an advisor that one day wants to be a principal, you need all of that. You need all of these voices together holistically to make the right decision. So I thank CCIM for that, and I thank all of you on this, because I have absorbed information and knowledge from all of you. So thank you.
Wonderful. Tony, you had something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple last comments. One is, given the environment that we're in, and I remember 2009 and 10, the last crisis, now more than ever is the time when you need to utilize these skills so you're not flying blind. I mean, in a good market, you just throw something out there, buy it, broker it, and it's going to go up, and it doesn't really matter. But right now, you've got to be able to, the cream rises to the top. So that being said, now's the best time to invest in yourself and to take these classes. The other thing, when I was chapter president, and I think one of the challenges our chapter faces is being such a wide geographic region, and speaking from a guy in the Inland Empire, to drive out to a meeting in Orange County, it takes me all day, or 6 hours when I add it all up. So utilizing technology like this, I think, is going to be key. And again, Gary, thank you for putting this together. Maybe we can do some more of these. I also, and if we can do that, and I'd like to look at sponsoring the chapter too. I don't know where I need to get info to do that, but maybe you guys could send me that. And this is exciting for me, man. I've been waiting for to get back involved. I took my very first course. It was like $110 from CCIM, one of those little mini courses. And I was like Jeff Engelstadt. I think it was it was fascinating. It got me all excited about learning again, because I haven't done it for so long. So, when you're sitting at home and you got nothing to do, dive into a CCIM course. That's my recommendation.
Nothing to do.
So
right?
have fun, guys.
Yeah. Hey, Tony, take those refresher courses. I'm signed up for all 5 of them. So.
Yeah, I did one. I'm going to do more.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, in the bottom there in the chat as well. And so we're always looking for membership, and we're always trying to be the best resource we possibly can to our commercial real estate community. And so you see in the chat box where it says membership for SoCal CCIM. So if you have an interest in becoming a member of SoCal CCIM, again, we're offering it for $99. And one thing we've been doing virtual roundtables with NorCal CCIM. And I do see a couple of names that are from NorCal that are on this call. And so one thing that we are offering is a reciprocal membership. So if you are a member of NorCal, of San Diego, of LA, of Arizona, Hawaii, or wherever you are, if you are a member of your existing chapter, and if you would like to become a chapter with SoCal CCIM, we're offering that reciprocal membership for only $25, which is extremely cheap, and it's a wonderful opportunity for everyone to get involved in. And again, through Zoom, our stretch, our influence is much greater at this time. So let's take advantage of these opportunities. And so wanted to definitely thank everyone for your time today. And each of you have been inspirational to myself and to our members. And it's because of each of you, starting off with Gene, it is that who we are today. And we're able to unite, to come together and make sure that we're all doing the things that we got to do to make sure we're all successful and we're all pushing forward. And I truly am very thankful and honored to have each of you here. And so what I'd like to do, I saw Tony walk away, but I'm gonna take a screenshot of our thing here, and then this is probably the first time that we're gonna have all of our presidents into on a photo. So if you would, everyone smile, okay? Yeah. All right. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. All right. Very good. Okay. I'll send it over to everybody. I think that is very cool. And so, so with that, thank you everyone so much for your time. Again, to our members, we're all volunteers, as Gene was talking about in the beginning, and we're all here. We all want to support everyone, and we're here to support our members. We're here to support one another. So if anyone feels as if they have any questions, if they would like to get a better understanding on whatever it is, we're all here to help. We're all here to support you in your efforts and your career. So again, thank you everyone so much for your time. This has been amazing.
Thank you, Tony, for putting this together.
Thank you to you, Gary. I have to thank you to you because you have done a great job being a good leader during this time. I really believe in you and really want to see a great future with CCIM, not only at chapter level, but to the leadership level in CCIM Institute too. Thank you so much, Gary. So thank you, everyone. Nice to see all your faces.
Yeah. Hey, so Gary, something that we may want to consider is if we were to put together, I don't know how this would work, but if we were to put together somewhat of a mastermind group meeting that met every 2 weeks or something at 8 in the morning or something like that, and whoever wanted to get on the call, our participants, the guests or whoever, but just kind of a round table of just discussion. So no more introductions type of situation, but it's, hey, this is the challenge I'm having right now. Can't get a building financed, escrow problems, tenants want free rent, et cetera, et cetera. So not quite sure if anybody would be interested in participating, but I think it'd be interesting. Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, we could definitely talk about that. And so some upcoming events that we have for next Thursday, we have a Dozen Drinks event as well. During this time, we're all brokers. We still need an opportunity to sell our listings and to market our listings. So if anyone has a listings, and we're also dealing with the haves and wants session during that time as well. And so we had our first one last week. I thought it went very well, and I saw some new interactions and some new relationships that were created. So look out for that. This Tuesday, we're holding our virtual roundtable with NorCal, which has been a great success. We typically have somewhere between 50 to 60 people on that call, and a wealth of information that is being shared during that time of everyone throughout California. And so, again, want to thank everyone for your time. Want to encourage everyone to participate, get involved. Thank you so much for all our presidents here, and for your guidance. And it's because of each of you is the reason why we're here today. And we're doing the things that we can and providing the resources that we can. And we need to put a CCIM logo on that mask, Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Tony.
So, all right, everyone. Well, just again, want to thank you so much for your time. Randy,
Thank
you
you,
look
Gary,
awesome.
for putting this together.
Right on,
Thank you, everyone. This was a lot of fun.
Talk to you later.
All right, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Bye.